In the years following the American Revolution, the fledgling United States was eager to expand its territory west of the Appalachian Mountains. The Northwest Ordinance of 1787 established the Northwestern Territory, comprising land that is now part of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and a portion of Minnesota. However, this region was home to a confederation of Native American tribes, including the Miami, Shawnee, and Delaware, who had not ceded their lands willingly and were resistant to the encroachment of settlers. The U.S. government, driven by a desire to assert control over these territories and facilitate settlement, faced the formidable task of dealing with the Indian Confederacy, which sought to protect its land and way of life. These tensions escalated into a series of conflicts known as the Northwest Indian War, also known as the Ohio War or Little Turtles War. The root causes of the Battle of the Wabash lay in these conflicting interests. After failed diplomatic efforts, President George Washington's administration decided to use military force to subdue the Native American resistance. This culminated in the commissioning of General Arthur St. Clair, who served as a senior officer in the American Revolutionary War and was then serving as the governor of the Northwest Territory to lead an expedition to secure the region. General St. Clair was tasked with raising a sufficient force to quell the resistance and facilitate negotiations from a position of strength. However, the expedition faced numerous challenges from the outset. The army was hastily assembled, inadequately trained and poorly supplied. Compounded by logistical delays, disease, and a lack of experienced leadership, the American forces struggled to prepare for their mission. By the time St. Clair's army set out from Fort Washington, present-day Cincinnati, Ohio, in October 1791, it consisted of about 1,400 men. This force included regulars, militia, and levied troops, many of whom were ill-equipped to face the experienced and tactically adept Native American warriors they would encounter. The Native American forces, led by capable leaders including Little Turtle of the Miami tribe and Blue Jacket of the Shawnee, were well aware of the approaching American army. Utilizing superior knowledge of the terrain and effective guerrilla tactics, the native forces prepared to confront St. Clair's advancing troops. On the morning of November 4, 1791, St. Clair's army was camped on the banks of the Wabash River, near present-day Fort Recovery, Ohio. Unbeknownst to them, a large Native American force of around 1,000 warriors had surrounded their position. As dawn broke, the Native American forces launched a surprise attack, catching the American soldiers off guard and in a vulnerable state. The assault began with a coordinated and ferocious onslaught, as native warriors attacked from all directions. The American lines quickly descended into chaos. The militia, positioned at the front, bore the brunt of the initial assault and were unable to maintain their ground. As the native warriors penetrated deeper into the camp, they created confusion and panic among the troops. One of the key factors contributing to the American defeat was the lack of discipline and experience among St. Clair's troops, many of whom had never seen battle before. The soldiers struggled to organize a coherent defense against the swift and strategically adept native warriors. The battlefield, enshrouded in gunpowder smoke, was a scene of terror and confusion as American soldiers struggled to discern friend from foe. Despite the disorder and mounting casualties, General St. Clair attempted to rally his forces. However, his efforts were hampered by severe physical ailments. He was so ill that he could barely mount a horse. Nevertheless, he tried to coordinate a defensive strategy, organizing small pockets of resistance and ordering countercharges. But these efforts were largely ineffective against the coordinated assault of the Native American forces. The American artillery, which could have been a decisive factor, became a liability. The horses needed to maneuver the cannons were either killed or had fled due to the chaos. Moreover, the dense woodland that surrounded the battlefield restricted the mobility and effectiveness of the artillery crews, leaving them vulnerable to continuous attack. As the battle wore on, the Native American forces pressed their advantage, systematically dismantling the American lines. The slaughter was devastating. By the end of the battle, the United States Army had suffered more than 900 casualties, including nearly 630 killed out of approximately 1,400 men. This included many officers, with the survivors fleeing in disarray back to Fort Washington. The Battle of the Wabash remains one of the worst defeats in the history of the United States Army in terms of percentage of casualties. In addition to the high loss of life, the defeat had profound implications for U.S. policy and military strategy. It underscored the effectiveness and determination of Native American resistance, highlighting the challenges faced by the United States in its expansionist endeavors. Political fallout from the defeat was significant. It sparked outrage and concern among government officials and the public. Criticism was leveled at both St. Clair and the federal government, with many questioning the competence and preparedness of the American military forces. In response, President Washington ordered a congressional inquiry into the conduct of the campaign, one of the first of its kind in American history. The investigation ultimately exonerated St. Clair of personal wrongdoing, attributing the disaster to systemic issues such as inadequate funding, poor supply chains, and lack of proper military organization. Nevertheless, St. Clair's military career was effectively ended, as he resigned from his command under mounting pressure and criticism. On a broader scale, the defeat led to significant reforms in the U.S. military. It prompted Congress to increase funding and support for a standing army, leading to the establishment of the Legion of the United States, a reorganized and more professional force under the command of General Anthony Wayne. Under Wayne's leadership, the Legion would eventually achieve victory over the Native American Confederacy at the Battle of Fallen Timbers in 1794, paving the way for the Treaty of Greenville and securing American dominance in the Northwest Territory. The Battle of the Wabash, despite its devastating outcome for American forces, stands as a testament to the Native American tribes' resilience and strategic acumen. Their ability to effectively defend their lands against a larger, albeit poorly managed, military force speaks to their skillful leadership and the cohesive tactics employed by the Confederacy. Although it is often overshadowed by subsequent events in American history, the Battle of the Wabash remains a critical chapter in the narrative of early American expansion. It highlights the complex dynamics of cultural conflict and the high cost of colonial ambition. Understanding this event provides a more nuanced perspective on the challenges faced by the United States during its formative years, as well as the enduring legacy of Native American resistance. In the aftermath of the American Revolution, the United States was keen to expand westward beyond the Appalachian Mountains. The Northwest Ordinance of 1787 established the Northwestern Territory, which now includes Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and part of Minnesota. This area was home to a confederation of Native American tribes who resisted settler encroachment. The U.S. government aimed to control these territories and support settlement, leading to inevitable clashes with the Native American Confederacy. Tensions escalated into the Northwest Indian War, also known as the Ohio War or Little Turtles War. The Battle of the Wabash arose from these conflicts. After failed negotiations, President George Washington's administration decided to use military force. General Arthur St. Clair, then governor of the Northwest Territory, was chosen to lead this effort. St. Clair was tasked with assembling a force to quell the resistance and negotiate from a position of strength. However, assembling the army was fraught with challenges. The troops were hastily gathered, poorly trained, and inadequately supplied. Delays, disease, and lack of experienced leadership hampered preparations. By October 1791, St. Clair's army of about 1,400 men, consisting of regulars, militia, and levied troops, was ready to march from Fort Washington, now Cincinnati, Ohio. The Native American forces, led by Little Turtle of the Miami and Blue Jacket of the Shawnee, were well prepared. Exploiting their knowledge of the terrain and employing guerrilla tactics, they awaited the American forces. On November 4, 1791, St. Clair's army camped on the Wabash River's banks near present-day Fort Recovery, Ohio. Unbeknownst to them, around 1,000 Native American warriors had surrounded their camp. At dawn, the Native American forces launched a surprise attack, catching the Americans off guard. The militia positioned at the front were quickly overwhelmed, leading to chaos within the camp. The lack of discipline and battle experience among St. Clair's troops compounded the situation. Amid the gunpowder smoke, the battlefield turned into a scene of terror and confusion. Despite his severe illness, St. Clair attempted to rally his forces. He organized small pockets of resistance and ordered counterattacks, but these efforts were largely ineffective. The American artillery, which could have been decisive, became a liability. The horses were killed or fled, and the dense woodland restricted artillery movement, leaving crews vulnerable. As the battle continued, the native forces systematically dismantled the American lines. By the end, over 900 casualties were inflicted on St. Clair's army, including nearly 630 killed out of approximately 1,400 men. The Battle of the Wabash stands as one of the worst defeats in U.S. Army history by percentage of casualties. This defeat had significant implications for U.S. policy and military strategy. The political fallout was profound, leading to public and governmental outrage. Criticism focused on both St. Clair and the federal government. President Washington ordered a congressional inquiry, one of America's first. The inquiry cleared St. Clair of personal wrongdoing, citing systemic issues like inadequate funding and poor military organization. However, the disaster effectively ended St. Clair's military career, and he resigned. The defeat prompted major reforms in the U.S. military. Congress increased funding and support for a standing army, leading to the creation of the Legion of the United States under General Anthony Wayne. Under Wayne's leadership, the Legion achieved victory over the Native American Confederacy at the Battle of Fallen Timbers in 1794. This paved the way for the Treaty of Greenville, securing American dominance in the Northwest Territory. The Battle of the Wabash highlighted the resilience and strategic acumen of the Native American tribes. Their ability to defend their lands against a larger force showcased their leadership and cohesive tactics. Although often overshadowed by later events, the Battle of the Wabash is a crucial chapter in early American expansion. It illustrates the complex dynamics of cultural conflict and the high cost of colonial ambition. Understanding this event provides insight into the early challenges faced by the United States and the enduring legacy of Native American resistance. This history is essential for a nuanced perspective on America's formative years. Thanks for watching. If you have any thoughts on the events covered in this video, please share them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more informative content and check out my next video, where I'll be doing a deeper dive into one of these topics.